All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. This is Josh Michaelis, and today we are going to bring you a little bonus episode of the Houndsman XP. This is going to air on Wednesday. I guess this is Wednesdays if you guys are listening to it. What it is I was able to attend the Jarvis Umphers Memorial $100,000 coon hunt in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. They had one in Rolling Fork. They had one in Crowville, Louisiana. So there were two hunts, 128 dogs, 64 competing in each hunt. And it was a pro hunt style. If you're not familiar with that in PKC, you can look that up. But it was a $4,000 entry. The winner, $100,000. Second place, I believe, was, I want to say $40,000. And let me look. Actually, I can look that up real quick. But either way, $467,000 total given away as prize money, and plus you add another 20 some odd thousand for the Calcutta. Nearly $500,000 was won this weekend, or this past weekend. And so we felt with Houndsman XP that it was a huge event. We felt that we should go down there and represent both Joy and Houndsman XP and have a presence there, and I was lucky enough to be able to do it. And while I was down there, I interviewed Michael Moody, who was one of the organizers for this event. And after the hunt was over, I was able to get with Scott Engle, who most of you guys are going to know and has had a lot of success over his career as a coon hunter. And, you know, he was able to win $100,000 with his Echo dog this week. And I just wanted to, you know, do a little backstory on that and express to all the listeners of what a well-run, well-organized event this was. You know, it was historical. Now Pro Sport has done a $100,000 hunt as well. And so it wasn't the first $100,000 hunt, but it was the first one that was sanctioned by PKC. And I think, you know, it was the Jarvis Umphers Memorial. And when Jarvis Umphers started the PCA, the Professional Coon Owners Association, which eventually turned into PKC, people say, well, he never would have dreamed, Well, if you know Jarvis, he dreamed it. He knew, you know, he had an idea, and Mr. Eddie Simmons expressed this during his presentation. But he could see this coming. Some people have the foresight for things like this, and Jarvis was one of them. And it was just such, when you look at how far the sport has come since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s, mid-2000s. I mean, even the last 10 years, the changes have been huge. And now here we are, where not only can people make a living following these hounds, they can make a good living. And I think that's amazing. I think that, you know, this is the future of our sport. I think that this format and these things do nothing but help. When something like this gets publicity, it's good publicity. It's not bad. You know, there's no way this can be bad for the future. There's no way this can be bad for the sport. I just can't see it. All I see is good. Now, some people are going to argue and say that money's the ruination and the little man can't. Well, there's nothing stopping somebody from getting a gray dog and a 2-cell flashlight and going coon hunting. And to have that right to go get a 2-cell flashlight and an old gray dog and turn it loose and try to tree raccoons, it takes things like this. It takes publicity. It takes positive publicity. It takes, you know, financial backing. It takes that stuff to secure the right for every hunter. And I just think that there's no way that this can be a negative. And you'll hear from Michael Moody on the event on about how it came about, who was responsible for thinking up the format, who was responsible for helping Michael do the organization, the hunters involved, and things like that. And you'll hear from Scott Engle, about the cast that he was involved in with Echo and winning $100,000. Now, before that happens, I want to give credit to all the winners. There was an A side and a B side, just like we said, and Scott was in the A side. And the finals in the A side, like Scott will mention here eventually, was Michael Moody was able to get in with B. Nathan Guthrie, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, who's hunting a really nice female. Him and Dale Kinder on together, called Spice Girl. Randy Morgan and Scott Engle's dog Echo, of course, and then Half Pint Junk, owned by Bob Dudley and handled by Daryl Guest. As your finalists. And I believe it was Junk, Half Pint Junk finished second. B finished third. And Spice finished fourth. And they hunted it off. Kudos to them. It was a miserable night as far as South Mississippi goes. Wind blowing. They were spitting snow, 27 degrees. Coons weren't moving. And so, to go up there and hunt it, it was, as Scott will tell you, was his idea. So you're going to hear the three casts that Scott was in. He's going to outline those. You're going to hear about Echo and how he done and what he done. And it was pretty entertaining, and I appreciate Scott for joining us. You look at the B side. It was a lot of burdens. A lot of burdens in the finals. And you will hear Michael, he made a little prediction at the beginning of this before it ever started, and he was bragging on some of the burden dogs, especially Topper. And Topper was one of the dogs in the Final Four. Legs, world champion Legs, was in the Final Four. Scott was hunting Slow Talking Trash, Scott Burden, and Stylish Hell Bitch, Randy Minner. I don't think UKC would honor the Hell Bitch name, but anyway, nice name. Randy Minner was in, and they split. They chose to split the finals, which I hated because as a media personality, I guess, and don't get me wrong, when I've hunted, I've split a lot. But as a media personality, I wanted to see everybody go for that $100,000. But they split, and the split, I believe, was $43,000 a piece. But when you got all the burdens in the same cast, they're going to split the money anyway. Just go ahead and split it anyway. So, I appreciate everything, Michael and Roger Dale and all the crew from PKC, Shane and Christy and everything done down there. The food was amazing. The hunting was amazing. I did not compete in it this week. Rain is still nursing a bad foot, and that was the dog that we suspected that we would have the best chance down there with it, so I didn't hunt. I was just down there representing Houndsman XP and, of course, representing Joy. And so, man, they rolled out the red carpet. My own podcast studio there, I was able to sit down and record with Joe Manning for the Friday episode, and I was able to interview Michael Moody. And the food was fantastic. The ladies in the kitchen was fantastic. The hunters were fantastic. It was a really well-run event, and you're going to hear that from Scott as well. But without further ado, here is Michael Moody describing the hunt. And after Michael, we will put Scott on. As always, we are fueled by joy, and I appreciate you guys listening. And here comes Michael. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Josh Michaelis with The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast, and we got a little special bonus action here, and it is, I'm here with Michael Moody. We are in Rolling Point, Mississippi, and we are at the Jarvis Umphers Memorial $100,000 hunt, and it is a flurry of activity outside, Michael.
To say the least.
Yes, there are chairs being set up, there's stuff being unloaded, and everybody's running around like a hive of bees.
That's about right.
So we seen all this work, and me and Michael, we ducked into the makeshift podcast studio. Maybe we'll get away from that for a little bit. But Michael, I want to talk about the hunt. Yes, it's a huge deal. The opportunity for us to hunt for what is life-changing money, $100,000 can buy, a nice house. It can buy a kid's education. It can buy a lot of things. And we're getting the opportunity through PKC to do that. And you are the driving force behind this. And I just want to know, start to finish, when did this come into your mind? When did you decide that, we can do this, we can pull this off? And how did that come about?
Well, originally Brendan Toney came up with this idea, and so he shot me a text and said, "Hey, what do you think about this format?" And I'm like, "Dude, that's awesome." And he said, "You think it'll sell?" I said, "That's a lot of money for 64 dogs to sell." And so I said, "Pitch it over to Roger Dale and see what he says." And I said, if he's good with it, tell him to let me know. Me and him will get together on some numbers, and I can put it on. I've got the woods. So literally just a couple of days later, Roger Dale shoots me a message, an email, and says, "Hey, what do you think about this?" He already had the format laid out. And so I want to give Roger Dale some props on this thing because PKC is a business. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they have a set percentage that they make on all these pro classics. So the original thing that he sent me didn't give me enough money. And so I said, "Roger Dale, I can't do it for that." I said, if I put my name on it, I want the food to be right. I want the facilities to be right. I want everybody to be treated in a way when they walk away, win, lose, or draw, we've had a good time, and want to come back and do it again. So Roger Dale said, "Well, tell me what you need, and we'll see if I can make it work." So I told him what I needed, which was actually double his original number that he sent me. And I was like, he ain't going to go for it. Yeah. He texted me back, and he said, "Let's do it," which I was shocked. And so PKC's taking a little bit of a hit on this thing, and I appreciate the fact that, in a sense, he kind of gave the hunters a bone to do this. So what we did, at that point, we started working on getting the guides and getting everybody ready. And in Mississippi, where we hunt, it's the Delta. It's flat. It's beautiful. We got coons. We went pleasure hunting the other night, cut loose at 720, rounded everything up by 11, and we treed 21 singles and looked at close to 30. And so I started talking to my guides and different things. Well, we got everything put together, and so then we came up with a date when we were going to have these things go on sale. And so Roger Dale kind of went back and forth that week, and then the day that they came for sale, I had several people text me and said, "Man, that's a great idea, but I just can't imagine 64 people paying $4,000.
I was in that boat.
I was too.
Yep.
I mean, I really was. And I was excited about it and thought, boy, if we can just do 64, this would be the coolest thing. So we go on sale, and about 10 minutes into everything going on sale, I start getting Facebook messages and text. "I can't get through. I can't get through. Is it this same old thing where only so-and-so gets in, or only so-and-so if they got this rigged?" And I'm getting some pretty rough text. Well, Roger Dale, he texted me and said, "The phone lines are lit up. We're fixing to sell this thing out." So about 25 minutes into this thing, Roger Dale calls me. And I went talked to Roger Dale, and he said, "Hey, we've got 64 sold, and we've got 100, and I think it was 31 on the waiting list." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "I'm not kidding you." And I said, "Man, I'm getting some of the nastiest texts about these things." And I said, "I have no control over this." He said, "Well, you've done a great job. We're just going to leave it at that." Well, I said, "Just hang on a minute. Let me call you back." Well, about that time, Jesse Lively texted me to call him. So I called Jesse. Jesse said, "Moody, I can't believe the thing's just sold out that quick." And I said, "I can't either." And he said, "What are you going to do about this waiting list? I was told it was 70 on the waiting list." I said, "Well, you was told wrong. It's 100. It was either 131 or 137. I can't remember." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to do two of them, bring 64 to me, and I got you covered." I said, "Are you sure you can do that, Jesse?" He said, "I'm sure." So I called Roger Dale back, and I said, "Here's what we're going to do." I said, "As long as you're good with it, we're going to do two of them." And I said, "Everything you sent me, let's just double it, and let's roll." He said, "Can you handle it?" I said, "We can handle it." So we got this building from the city of Rolling Fork, and it'll seat about 400 people. Yeah. And it's got some pretty good facilities. Now, Rolling Fork is in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, it is. I'm still looking for a motel to stay in. I just rolled in here. I'm trying to find a motel.
Oh, well, about 30 miles, you're going to find one. Right. So, you got Greenville that's one way, and it's got a casino. And then you got Vicksburg that's the other way, and they've got multiple casinos. It's got good towns, but it's 30 miles.
Yep.
But the upside to that is nobody's got to drive very far to hunt.
Right. So and it's a wonderful. People can't see it, but it's a wonderful facility.
Thank you.
It's a great place to have a coon on. I could tell that as soon as I walked in the door.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. It's a very open area in here, and it's good. It's got a lot of good access, and I'm hoping that we make this an annual thing. Now, I will say this. Get your phones ready next year because I probably won't do 128. That's a lot.
Right.
So we continue to go through this, and of course it booked up. When it booked up, we still had, over 60 on the waiting list. And so we've weeded through that waiting list, and there's still probably 8 or 10 that's wanting entries that didn't get them. But that's just part of it. But we got 128 dogs that we're hunting. We've got some good prizes. But to think in a weekend for coon hunting, we would be hunting for a purse that's, if you figure the Calcutta, it's basically $494,000 this weekend.
$500,000 you're going to get giveaway this
That's
weekend.
pretty impressive.
Or one. Not giveaway. It's going to be earned.
There ain't no doubt. You got the best of the best. We figured it up in the dog earnings. You got over $2.5 million in dog earnings. You got, and Eddie Simmons has got this written down, but you've got, the all-time money-winning handlers. You've got like 30 of the top whatever here, it's great. But I want to say that, Eddie Simmons is, he's one of my best friends. And Eddie, everybody that knows Eddie, if you've got something bad to say about Eddie, I can assure you Eddie's not the problem in this equation.
I remember on one of our early podcasts, I said, if you don't like Eddie Simmons, you're a terrible human being.
There you go. That pretty much sums it up.
Right.
That's exactly. And Eddie has been there for me. And I'll tell you, I have a fault. I'm a businessman, but I have a fault. I'm a dreamer. And I see the big picture, but I forget the little details at times. So I have to have people around me that catches me. Well, Eddie is a detail man.
Yeah.
And so Eddie helps me. And Eddie's been every step of the way. He's been with me. Becky Bounds has been with me. My mom's cooking for this thing.
Yeah.
This is just, it's a family deal. And everybody has been so willing to help me. I've had multiple, Josh, you even called me. Anything I can do, let me know. I've had multiple people do that. And we may disagree coon hunting. We may have arguments out there, but hey, the coon hunting family is a pretty awesome family. It's impressive.
My thing is, and the reason I do this podcast and the reason that I do, a lot of the things that I do is because I love this sport and I love the idea of hunting for money. I know that sounds kind of weird to say, I don't like hunting for trophies, and sometimes I don't even like to pleasure hunt that much.
That's right.
But I think that hunting for money is a key to the future of the sport, and I think that's how we're going to grow the sport in the future, and I think that's a path, towards mainstreaming things and towards doing stuff like that, and this is just one of those steps. And so when I offered to help, I ain't much help for much, but we do it just the same reason that you put this together is because we love the sport of competition coon hunting, and we think this is the future of it.
That's right.
But one thing I do want to ask is, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to put something together like this. We do, a 16-dog, $6,500 Pro Classic every year. We done the one down in Texas, the Lone Star Shootout, which was a pretty big entry hunt and stuff like that. But I know what it takes to do this, to line the guides up, to line the facilities up, to get the money right, to get everybody here on order and in time. And coon hunters are like herding cats. I love them to death, but you can't get them anywhere on time.
No.
And so what can you say? It's hard to fathom if someone hasn't done it what it's like, but what's something that you notice that makes this area and this place and this stuff like that something that can hold a hunt like this, and the help you get and the things like that? What made you pick right here?
So we've got a camp right up the road here, and where I have my Pro Classics about 15 minutes from here. I've got a lodge over there that Matt Sharp lets me use, and he's been very good to me. He's a landowner in the area, but there's multiple landowners over here that allow us to hunt, and there's also a lot of public land.
Yeah.
Now on this, it was important to me that we hunt. Now, I've got a couple of honey holes in the public land that we will be guiding in, but the majority of it's going to be private land. And so there's actually very few coon hunters in this area, believe it or not. Most of us are from around Jackson or an hour and a half away, but we all know this area. And so whenever it happened, and there again, I can't take much credit on this. I've done a lot of work on it, but I didn't have the idea. Roger Dale allowed us to do that, and I've had so much help that I've been able to delegate things to people that I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
Well, that's tremendous, And so I knew I could get the guides because we have so much hunting. Now, the fun part was Monday, 2 of my guides canceled on me. And so, yesterday I got it all worked out. It was no problem. And there again, we have plenty of public land spots, but some of them get hunted a lot. I didn't want to send the hunters there. And so, with the private land spots that we have, it's just a great place to hold a coon hunt. Nobody likes hunting in the hills, so we don't have hills. And now we do have some swamps. We got a gator or two. We're going to have some snakes. I mean, that's just part of being in the South. But let me say this to all you guys that are from the North. I apologize for you not being down here, but the high today is 70 and the low tonight's 39.
This is the first time I've had a T-shirt on since November, I think.
Yes, sir.
It is beautiful weather down here.
And we got a front that's coming through tonight. The high tomorrow is going to be around 51 and the low is going to be in the upper 20s, and that's pretty brutal for us, actually.
That's summertime at home. That is some. I remember when Wade told me, he goes, you should go down to that hunt in Mississippi, and we talked to. Of course, I talked about being down here with the podcast and stuff, and I said, February, Mississippi, Iowa, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. And you talked about entries earlier, and of course, when this came out and you made the announcement and stuff, first thing me and Jed do is we get together, and how many entries we get. And I'm just like you. I said, well, we'll just wait until it's closer to time, and then it probably won't fill, and then we'll pick one up.
Yes,
they'll probably hunt 48 dogs or something like that. And then I wake up that morning, and there's no entries to be had, and the waiting list is 2 miles long. And so we weren't able to get an entry, and now rain's hurt, so it's kind of a blessing that we didn't. But still, I mean, like you said, it was just, who would have thought 128 people like that would get a $4,000
$4,000 entry fee.
So that's crazy.
That just shows you where, and I got to say something about Jarvis Umphers. I think it's pretty cool that he's from Mississippi.
Yeah.
He started this in Mississippi. And he saw a dream, and he had a dream that he and Miss Umphers, hand in hand, made this happen. And I hate that Jarvis is not here to get to see this. But Miss Umphers is going to be here this afternoon, and that's special to me. We have a presentation that we're going to give her, and Eddie's going to say a few words about Mr. Jarvis and her. But without him, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And I think he deserves all of the credit for where we are and what we're getting to enjoy.
I think Jarvis seen this coming. I do think that Jarvis, whenever he was planning out the PCA and the things like that, and I think he had the foresight to see that, eventually we're going to be able to hunt these dogs for life-changing money.
That's exactly right. And Jarvis, he's the kind of person. I started hunting in the PKC hunts in the late 80s, and anytime I saw Jarvis, he was a friend. He would shake your hand. He would have a conversation with you. He was never too busy for you. That's a special kind of person.
It is. So we're getting ready to enjoy the festivities tonight. Everybody's still out there working like busy bees, so I'm going to let you get back at it. But first, I want to get some predictions. These are the best of the best in the competition coon hunting world. You got any picks? You got any favorites?
You put me on the spot. Well,
I did.
I'll say this. The Burdens came down and hunted with us.
Yeah.
And old Topper and get it done. He got it done quick, fast, and in a hurry. Topper's going to be a good one. And I'll tell you another one that's kind of under the radar that I've been hunting with her for 3 weeks, and that's the mini female that Keegan and Bella are on together.
Yeah.
I've seen her do some outstanding work. But I'll tell you, every dog at this hunt, there's no way for me to make a pick because it's just, the way I look at it, dogs have to go the right way.
Mm-hmm.
The wind has to be the right. If my dog hooks a left and there's 3 coons in 400 yards and these dogs hook a right and the first coon's a half a mile, I'm probably fixing to win the cast. Yeah. It's just a lot of luck. Every dog here is just outstanding dogs that I would say I'd have to be privileged to own any of them.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's where we're at. I tell you, I like the old Topper dog. Old Dustin and Z will be here. Michael Warden Rock. I mean, you just got Barry Kitty has come out of retirement. The legend, Mr. Wipeout himself.
What kind of dog do you think Barry's packing?
Oh, he's packing the Colt 45 dog that Painter had, and I can tell you he's the real deal. You know Barry ain't coming anywhere if he don't think he's fixing to win.
I judged Painter in Colt 45 in the late round to World Hunt last year when he got in, and that dog that's a business-like. I'm going to go get my coons. I don't care what y'all are doing type dog.
There you go.
Barry's going to do well with it. I seen that. I was actually looking through the entries. I hadn't had a chance. I've been on the road. I looked through the entries. I looked down and down. Barry Kitty. Oh, my Lord.
I mean, it is. It's, it's just, this is special, man. Yeah. I want to say I thank the Lord for letting me be a part of it. And I appreciate everybody that's helped us do this, because it's, even though my name is kind of being synonymous with this, I have very little to do with this other than just getting some guides in a building. So it's all the credit goes to everybody else that's helped me and put this together. Roger Dale, Jarvis, and Miss Umphers, and people like that.
And I want to give credit to Roger Dale too, and I like to think I'm going to take credit for making this happen. Because it wasn't very long after I griped on my podcast about PKC. Next thing you know, they bring Pro Hound back and they put a $200,000 hunt on. So I'm just going to say I did. I'm going to say Roger Dale was listening to that as soon as it came out, and he goes, "You know what? I think Michaelis is right. I think that's what we're gonna do something crazy."
I love it. I listened to that podcast and I was like, "Oh, buddy." Yeah. I mean, but you were right. You get to a place in this, you either get on board or you get left, and you've got an option there. And so I appreciate the fact that Roger Dale stepped up and said, "Hey, we got to do some bigger and better things." And I feel like that's what we've done. And I hope I can do my part, and everyone feels welcome and has a great time, win, lose, or draw. And I hope this is an annual thing.
I do too. And like I said, credit to Roger Dale, credit to PKC, and credit to you, Mr. Moody, and all the help that you put into this, all the work you put into this, and everybody, that's helping you along with it.
Well, I appreciate that.
We appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining us. We're going to get together, go hunting one night, and we'll sit down for a little longer whenever we ain't so busy.
There you go.
But thank you, Michael, and good luck tonight.
Thank you, Josh.
This is Josh Michaelis with the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by Mr. Scott Engle, the winner of the one cast they hunted off down at the Jarvis Umphers Memorial. Scott, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. Yourself?
I bet you are doing good. $100,000 you won last weekend. Hey, I want to. How's this going to work is I sat down with Moody before the hunt started, and we talked about the hunt, and we talked about Jarvis and a few other things, and then I thought after the hunt was over, I would call some guys that done well, and we would put them on the podcast, put them all together as one. And you're the first person I called, Scott. And congratulations, first of all, you and Echo. Man, what an amazing weekend. How's it feel?
No, it's good. It was very good. Definitely a fun hunt.
Tell me about the first cast you guys had. Did you get in early, or did you have to hunt late?
I got in early on Friday. I had Gerald Keegan hunting a little female for Russ Beller.
Yeah.
Austin Gentry with the Power Trap, and I had Kenny Trish hunting the Davenport's Thunderdog.
How did I drew Thunder? I drew Thunder at the World Hunt. That's a pretty good dog there. How'd that cast go?
Well, we turned loose kind of in a bad spot there, and I got down on the lake and done a lot of ripping and roaring to begin with, and ended up several of them took us a minus on all that water, but ended up Echo and Thunder. I had treed Echo, and I knew it wasn't right. We get in there, and they got a coon on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get any strike points. I do get 50, or tree points. I do get 50 strike points on it. And Echo ended up treeing a coon, and then had one treed when the cast was over.
All right.
But that was the only coon we scored on the cast was the one he treed, other than the one we caught on the ground.
I got you. What was the hunting like? Were you guys turned loose?
Good, very good hunting. They just got down the kind of a swamp area. It was their own fault for getting down there. But man, that rolling fork hunting is just some of the best I've been in. I knew that.
I'll tell you what, I like that it's flat.
Oh, it's flat. It's a big timber. It don't have too much water.
Yeah. So you get in Friday night, you get a hunt Saturday night. Who'd you draw early on Saturday?
Saturday had Stephen Smith with the loose change, Doug Hefner with Sting, and Michael Ward with the Rock Dog.
And some other good dogs. How'd that cast go?
We Change ended up 3-3, and Echo wins right there at the very, very end with number 4.
I say, you had 550?
5 and a quarter.
I think you had. I knew you had 5 something. So you can't just end it on that. You got a shootout with cast like that. You're gonna have to explain a little better, Scott. Those are the exciting ones.
Yes, we get cut loose. Change gets treat first for 75 and 100, and as we're going to him, Echo trees on in there, 50 and 100. We go into Change. He's got a coon. Get him cut. Go to Echo. He's got a coon. I get cut. As we're coming back to Sting, I get Echo treat again, and that's kind of what set me like one coon up. You know, once I got, we come into Sting, she was circle, Rock was circle, back to Echo with a coon, then to Change with a coon, and we get to Echo's 3rd coon with about 8 minutes to go, cut him off of that. And going to Change, he's got a coon that puts him beating me by a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And with 2 minutes to go, we find, we get Change cut. He actually gets struck, and Echo's in their tree.
Yeah. What? How far was Echo and Change apart whenever you cut Echo with 8 minutes left?
It wasn't far.
Right.
They wasn't far. Maybe just 100 yards or 2.
How far did Echo go between his 3rd coon and his 4th coon?
I lost him at like 8/10.
Okay, so when I talk, I try to explain to people, what these hounds can do and what they're capable of. And of course, Echo's a special case, especially with what you guys have been doing with him the last few months. But with 8 minutes to go, a dog treed pretty close to him. You pulled him off his 3rd coon, walked him a minute, cut him, and he got in there 8/10 in 6.5 minutes and struck and treated another coon to win it for you.
Yep, probably not even that. You know, it probably time than that really.
That's what it takes. With the pressure on a dog and things like that, they really got to hustle in there, especially late in the cast. And I don't think people can grasp what some of these dogs do sometimes.
Yep, it was a kind of a special place to be able to hear, as well as you could hear in that place. Was what amazed me down there. The guide had us hunting the right way, into the wind, and I think Eddie done Simmons had done the step measurement deal, and we like almost 8 miles on that cast.
That's a lot of walking. I've been on those casts too. That's a lot of walking. But you guys got 2 dogs. It's a miracle you guys got that many coons scored, walking that much. So usually on them big 7-8 mile casts, where you're walking a bunch, you spend so much time walking, you're only scoring 2 or 3 coons.
Yep, that's right. Stephen and them have got a very special pup there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I heard good things about that dog coming into this hunt too. So you moved on to Saturday night, Final 4, guaranteed to get paid. And I know that's a good feeling, but one question I want to ask is, whose idea was it to hunt? Was it yours?
Yeah, it was mine.
Good. And I wanted to make sure, I just prayed. I know I text Moody, and I text Nathan Guthrie, and I said, hey, make sure someone hunts this off. Someone needs to win $100,000 here, and you look at the B side of it, and there were so many burdens in it, I understand why they split that.
Yep, too many.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you got a whole cast of burdens. They're going to split the money up either way. You just as well, go ahead and split it, not mess with hunting it. But tell me, because I watched the play-by-play, and, I watched the Backwards Heritage stuff, the coverage of it too, as much as I could. But, you can't see everything that's going on. But, give me a rundown of the Saturday night cast, the late round.
We think when we dropped over the levee, we went to a WMA, just right outside of Rolling Fork there. And I think when we dropped over the levee, I think the cell service just dissipated. But we get cut loose. And mine really ain't no strike dog. He don't bark a whole lot, typical on the ground. But anyway, he gets in there 500-600 yards. I knew we'd been cut 4 or 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and before anything opened, and I get a hunter strike. He gets open.
Well, hold on a second, Scott. I thought all these dogs just ran around barking their fool head off and babbled the whole time. You said something didn't bark for 5 or 6 minutes?
Nope, we never had we did. I knew I had a shot of getting a good strike when open, so I felt good about that. And
that's not rare though. I've been in a lot of pro classic casts where it's 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes before something opens its head.
Yeah. Him and I believe Nathan Guthrie's female, they get after something in there, and I'm supposing it's a coon. They get down on a lake.
Mm-hmm.
They get down on a lake, and mine actually had. I'm thinking he caught a coon, because he stayed still for 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He never moved, and that's just not him, because he's a mover and a shaker,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe he was in the ground. I don't believe he's in a log, because surely he would have barked some. I think he had to have caught a coon.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, all right, I made these guys hunt this off, and I'm going to sit here and get 4th place. Mine's going to lay down there and chew a coon.
Yeah.
For 2 hours, but he didn't stay. Maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. All of a sudden, he just kind of come up out of there, and headed out, and started hunting again. Everything else was kind of struck by then. He left up out of there. Nathan Guthrie had actually made the comment that his was right down there on that lake, just kind of sitting. Put him on my Garmin. I'm like, well, this is where mine was at. I said he was there 15 minutes. So his hung up there on it after mine had left.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, but Daryl guesses junk dog gets treed. We get in there and it's a den. Everything's just kind of beating, pecking, knocking, different directions. Nothing really. They got down on a lake slough type of deal, and I don't know, hung out too long.
Yeah.
But obviously they were smelling something, or they wouldn't have been hanging out there. But finally mine got, I think when we could really hear him good, he was like 1.1 treat in there, and I treat him, and we headed off to him. As we're going to him, Daryl's dog trees again.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into Echo 1.1. He's got a coon on a big oak in a bottom. Lead him back off a minute, cut him. And at this point in time, there's about 40 minutes left. And before we get kind of out of that bottom, get started good back to headed to Daryl's dog, Echo gets struck again and gets treated in there again. He was like a mile at that time too, but you could still in that bottom very well. But I struck him, didn't have to tree him, because we're going, obviously walking out of here and going back to Daryl's. We get into Daryl's. He's got another den.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, everything's really slowing down. Moody's, we get him recast. Nathan Guthrie still has not heard his.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate. That's a good guy.
Yeah, it's a good guy and a good dog too.
Oh, yep. I like Spice Girl.
Yeah.
And right there, probably just a few minutes left. Of course, that would have left Moody and Nathan Guthrie tied at that time,
Mm-hmm.
Just a few minutes left. Moody's kind of comes on cold tree, and but warms it up, and we go into her, and she's got a den that moves him into 3rd.
Yeah. What? How far was when you had to walk away from Echo? Of course, nothing's treated coon yet, so you're still 2 coons up, correct?
Yep.
And so you don't have to tree Echo, but was you worried about getting back toward, because I've had that situation sometimes where, I leave a dog treat and I walk away from it and it's struck, but I never can. Dogs get to tree and coons and I never can get back over there to where I can hear it again, to where I can get it treat at the end of the hunt. Was you worried about something like that happening, or did you think that odds were, the way the coons are moving, some of these dogs are banging around a little bit, that you're probably okay?
I felt like the odds was, I thought, you know what, I debated whether to go ahead and tream and just be done with it. But the way the time was running, and man, it was cold. It had gotten about 27, and that's cold.
Right.
In South 27 is. It was cold. I knew we was going to have a pretty good amount of walk back to Daryl's. My biggest fear was the 6 maybe catching everybody and then that strike opening back up.
Right.
But I just elected not to. But then I thought we could. Well, when we got to Moody, you could hear Echo very well. When we got back down off in there, you could hear Echo pretty well again. So I had time, and man, you can hear in that place so good.
Yeah. What? Well, I know Pro Sport, they've had their $100,000 hunt as well. They're hunting for trucks. They're doing a lot of things that pay a lot of money. PKC, of course, has the big Pro Classics, and now this $100,000 hunt too. How do you think, I just want to get your opinion on this before we kind of close this out. How do you think these money hunts are affecting the sport and the future of the sport, Scott?
I think it's fantastic. I think the more we can do with the Backwoods Heritage videoing and the money hunts is just phenomenal. That group down there in general, Michael Moody, hats off to him. With his crew, Jesse Lively. The venue was a nice place. The food was great.
It was.
Like them, a lot of work into that, and as long as we have hunts like that, they're going to fill and people's going to come to them. And the hunt was exceptional. No, I think it's great for the sport, and I don't know anybody really left down there with a sour taste in their mouth about the hunt.
I don't either. Like I mentioned in the pre-roll, there was only 2 questions, and both were genuinely, questions that went with the judge. Everything went off without a hitch, and I was really impressed with how them guys did down there. It was a great hunt.
Yeah, I thought so.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you joining us. I'm going to get you on here again one day on one of the Regular Truth episodes, and we'll talk Mojo, and we'll talk Echo, and we'll talk some things one day when we got time to sit down. But I really appreciate you joining us. Congrats not only on your win last weekend at the $100,000 hunt, but all the success you've had, especially with Echo here in the last few months. You guys are really rolling, and I hope you keep it up. And like I said, thanks for joining us, and I hope we can get together and do this again sometime.
All right, Josh. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And you need me, holler at me.
All right, I appreciate it, Scott. Have a good one.
All right, man.